What is going on, everybody? We need to talk about one of the hottest topics of the entire year. Well, one of them, and that's Apple as a company. And is this the start of their downfall due to being behind on the AI race? So, before we get into it, like the video. If you like it, obviously, comment, let me know, give me some feedback on these types of videos so I can continue to do these. So, just getting right into it, I want to talk about Apple stock really quick and just the performance and if how you would have done if you invested into this company. So over the last 5 years, and I'm going to compare this to SPY, which is the S&P 500, and relative to that and how you would have performed if you just put your money into Apple. So over the last 5 years, right, Apple you would have been up 118% over the last 5 years, and then compare that to SPY, you would have been up, what's that say, 95.2%. So that's pretty good, right? If you invested into Apple stock, you would have been outperforming the S&P. And over the last 10, 20 years, Apple has performed a lot better than that. So there's definitely no denying that. Now, if we go to the 1 year, so Apple stock, if you invested a year ago from today, you would be down a little bit over 8%. And compare that to SPY, you actually would have been up almost 13%. But year to date, if you put your money into Apple stock in the beginning of the year of 2025, you'd be down roughly 14% on your investment, right? And then compare that to SPY. If you did that, then you'd be up a little over 7%, almost 7.5%. So you wouldn't be doing too well if you put all of your eggs into Apple stock. And there's a clear reason for that. So before we start to get into like the whole AI thing, just how Apple has been as a company I would say over the last 5 years or so, maybe the last few years, couple years since AI has kind of come into the picture, but who Apple is and what kind of like have they done? So Apple, if we really think about it, there's no denying that they have and basically innovated the one of the most innovative products in the history. There's no denying that the iPhone is one of the most historic products that have ever been launched. Um, and then they have their MacBooks, the great products, but the iPhone itself, phenomenal product. Um, but since they've launched that, and you probably already heard this, is like what have they done in terms of innovating, and what's really going to take their business to the next level, right? And iPhone sales, we're going to get into it. I'll show you how that's been doing. Where iPhone sales are pretty much that's the largest revenue stream for their business, and really when it comes to their iPhones, again, I'm going to show you the growth of that over the last few years. But really, where they've been kind of increasing their revenue, other than their iPhones, are their services revenue, and that's what I'm going to show you right now. So, looking at their iPhones, you can kind of see right here, like quarter over quarter had a slight increase. Year over year has been relatively flat. So I want to just go over this right here, this little service section right here. So services, really from my understanding and how they do it, a lot of it right here, as you see, is like the advertising business side of it. So what they do through their app store, you have a lot of small businesses that are promoting their businesses on TikTok, Instagram, Facebook, whatever it is, right? And they have to pay using Apple Pay. And what Apple does is they charge a ridiculous amount of money for that. Like we're talking 20, 30+% commission that they're taking off of these fees. So like if a company wants to spend $100 on advertising their business on TikTok, they have to pay an extra 30%, and it goes straight to Apple and they pocket that. And there was actually a video, or a podcast, I should say, with Mark Zuckerberg. I think he was on Joe Rogan, and he was basically saying like, what have they done since they invented the iPhone besides increasing their commissions in their app store and basically just robbing people in the app store and a lot of companies. And that's kind of like what they've been doing. And you know, you can go look at their services revenue, and it's been growing, right? It's been growing double digits. But at what point can they keep increasing their fees and keep growing that revenue? You know, the iPhone is their biggest contributor, and I have it here somewhere. Here it is right here. So looking at their iPhone sales right now, 2008, we already know it's kind of been going up since there. But when it hits 2022, well, 21 is when it started to max out. So right here, these are their iPhone sales. You can see since 2021, I think this is in millions, 242 million. So they maxed out in 2021, and you can kind of see they've decreased, and they've kind of just been flat since then. I don't have the estimates right now for what it's going to be in 2025, but so far it's been decreasing, and you can even see right here. Where is it? Yeah, their iPhone. Now this is just a quarter by quarter in 6 months. Quarter increased a little bit, and this is ending March. I'm pretty sure. Yeah, this is March, and then this right side is 6 months ended. You can kind of see that it's pretty much flat. Like they're barely even growing. Their services is where they're actually getting some decent growth to kind of make up for that. I think services make up about 25% of their revenue. iPhone is still over half, just over half. And where they're struggling right now is Greater China. So that's kind of been like the struggle. So when you think about like what they've done in Apple as a company, like when people get iPhones, I remember back in the day when iPhones, they were on like their sixth generation, you know, at least like maybe their first 7 generations, maybe like when they hit the XR. I remember every single year people would want to upgrade their iPhones because they had the new latest and greatest feature, new functionality to the phone that not any other phone had, and a lot of people wanted to get that new phone. Now I saw something. I mean, I just Googled this real quick. You know, people are waiting 2-3 years, sometimes even more, to upgrade these phones, and that's what's causing a lot of these numbers in their sales to kind of stay stagnant, because you're getting less and less people kind of upgrade every single year. You're always going to have those people that upgrade every single year due to, you know, better camera quality, functionality, whatever it is, right? You're always going to have that, but less and less people are starting to upgrade because all they're really doing is upgrading their software a little bit, and then they're throwing it into new hardware, and they're kind of just selling you new hardware, right? It's kind of like the analogy when you buy like a new Madden game or a new 2K game. You're buying the same game with just updated rosters. That's kind of like the analogy that I would kind of put it to. But that's where I kind of think they are right now. It's just there's not a lot of innovation with them, and we're gonna get into the AI part now. Okay, so as Apple, they've been behind the ball with AI. And that's kind of why their stock price is not performing well this year. They've clearly been behind. When you look at how they've been integrating artificial intelligence into their phones, which is where they need to really take that opportunity in, right? Is they have all of these phones rolled out to millions and millions of people, and they're not really integrating it like these other companies are, like the big dogs like Microsoft, Google, Meta. So just look right here and where they've kind of been putting their money, their CapEx, their capital expenditures, where are they spending their money, investing their money so they could start to see profits. CapEx, you can see here for, I think this was a quarter in 2024. This was last year, basically year over year. But for the quarter, I think this was their Q2 earnings for 2024. Apple spent about 2.15 billion in payments for property, plant, and equipment. This is for the June quarter. So this was Q2. Now, you can even see here, some of those investments aren't even for AI. It was for other operations of their company. Meanwhile, you look at Microsoft, Google, and Meta, you could see the difference in CapEx. And this stuff was going towards AI. This was going towards their AI infrastructure. Now, since 2023, I saw something where Apple has spent about 10 billion in capex on AI infrastructure over the last couple of years. Relative to these big dogs like their competitors, they've been spending tens and tens of billions. So they're clearly going to be ahead, right? So I think Apple has really undermined the potential with AI, and they're just clearly behind. And I don't know how they're going to do it. I don't know how they're going to catch up, but we got this news right here where Apple wants to use Anthropic or OpenAI to help power their Siri. Now, if you don't know, Apple was supposed to come out with and use Siri, and have like this huge AI upgrade with Siri, and they actually delayed that at least until spring of 2026. It's too late at that point, and I think like now they really want to like pivot and try to get somebody else to power it, and that's what's happening now. Just a quick note on this: OpenAI already has ambition. They already said that they want to get into hardware. I don't really see Apple going with OpenAI because of that. I don't see OpenAI really even wanting that. So, and I'll show you something as well and why I don't think they would go with them. Now, I mean, who knows? Anthropic is more enterprise based anyway. They've already partnered with Amazon. So it kind of makes sense that maybe Apple will go with them. But this is a big thing. This happened earlier this year in May. OpenAI bought out Apple's iPhone designer, um, John Ives or Dan, I think his name's Johnny Ives. So Johnny Ives is a huge person when it comes to designing for Apple. He's the guy that literally helped design the MacBook back in like the 90s and like one of the first iPhones. He is one of like their top guys. He left the company in 2019, started his own startup, his own hardware startup, and now OpenAI bought them out, and now Ives is working with them. So it's a pretty big loss. Um, but again, Apple lost one of their top designers that they've had for 20 plus years. So definitely something to kind of note about that. So we'll see what happens. Um, Also, earlier this year, we saw at their conference that they had. Now they have what's called like the Worldwide Developer Conference or something like that, WWDC, and they have this every year, and they usually talk about all the new features that they're adding to the new iPhone, talk about software upgrades, etc. So this is kind of what they talked about in the terms of like iOS 26. They didn't. I don't think they talked about one thing that had to do with artificial intelligence, like nothing. And a lot of investors got caught off guard because I think a lot of people were expecting Apple to do something, talk about anything that has to do with AI in terms of like innovation, like something. This threw a lot of people off, and I don't think they said anything. Not that I watched it, not that I remember. Here's just a recap of what they, with their watches and some AirPod features, but in terms of like AI and just where they're going with this, it seems like they're really behind. And you look at Apple, their net income, right? They're still the second most profitable company in the world. I'm not saying that like they're not a good company, but when you have a company that is at this scale, close to $3 trillion, 2 trillion, whatever it may be, it, you have to be able to unlock something new that's going to take your business to the next level. Now, if you put your money in Apple over the next 5 years and they're not doing anything, they're not getting that new spark of growth, what are they going to do? Like when you have other companies that are really taking advantage of this new AI wave, I'd rather put my money in a company that's really going towards growth and not just kind of staying in their old ways, right? And Siri's like a 15-year-old technology. Siri's like really bad, compared to these other LLMs and what they're capable of. And I think they're starting to realize that and why they're trying to go and to Anthropic or OpenAI. Um, And I think right now, and on another note, a lot of people and why they like Apple is because their privacy policies. Apple's very pro security for their users on the iPhone, and I think that's also why it's taking long to create something, or not even create something, but partner with somebody to use to power, and have an LLM on their phones, or whatever it may be. And that's why, a lot of people do like that. When it gets into like, the privacy policies, I'm not like a expert in that field. I just know they have very strict policies when it comes to privacy, and that's one of the reasons why they haven't come out with something or partnered with somebody. So they need to probably, in my opinion, they should look over that and figure it out, and try to partner with somebody ASAP, because they don't need to partner with, or they don't need to create their own LLM model, right? You look at Microsoft, they don't have their own LLM. They partnered with OpenAI like a year or two ago, and it's working out very well for their business. And they're doing a great job in integrating that into their business. And that's exactly what Apple should have done years ago. And that's what's kind of just hurting them as a company. We'll see what happens, how it plays out, but I think they have a lot of catching up to do when it comes to artificial intelligence and really taking their business to the next step. Because you look at iPhones, stagnant. There's no growth there, and that is the biggest driver of their revenue. You're talking over half their revenue is coming from this, and they're not doing anything in what, 4 years. They haven't even seen that high at 242 million break. So, I love iPhone, Apple products, the iPhone, the MacBook. I'm a huge user of their products. Investor right now, probably not. So we'll have to see how they start to perform. But that's really all I had for Apple. I didn't want to make this video too long. Um, Again, I love Apple's products. They're great. They're excellent. But as an investor, I think right now there's just too many questions in the air on what they're doing to really catch up in this AI race. So we'll have to see. But that's all I have. I appreciate you for watching this entire video. If you made it this far, make sure to comment, like, and I'll see you in the next video. Peace.